Man United need a new manager in the summer. I think most people would concur on that. Should United be looking at Unai Emery? Because what he's done with Aston Villa, pretty much the same squad that Steven Gerrard was going to get them relegated with. They can change up their style of football depending on who they're against. They were so brave against Arsenal on Sunday. The way they stopped Arsenal's press, the way they played through it. The level of football is amazing. The development of players has been great. Although you could argue he fouled at PSG and he fouled at Arsenal, and you obviously know him firsthand. Do you think Man United would be looking at him and throwing money at him to get him out of that Villa contract and essentially start this rebuild at Man United?
The only thing that would keep him at Villa over a club like Manchester United is the structure. And the structure at Manchester United, as we know, is an absolute shambles. Now, because that's now changing, and Ratcliffe and Ashworth and Wilcox and these guys are coming in, that is going to be the way that they are going to be moving Manchester United forward in terms of support. Then Unai Emery would be a good shout. Because when Unai Emery has support and structure, he wins things, right? He wins things. And he's looking like he's going to do very well at Aston Villa. If Manchester United are run exactly the same way they have been in the last decade, it will not do Unai Emery any favours. Unai Emery will be going into that poison chalice and it will be the same. And let's be real, the only reason it didn't work for him at Arsenal wasn't because he was poor. It's because he had people around him that were just horrendous. So people like Ralph Sanlehi and people like Sven Mislintat at the time, people like Hus Fahmy were all around him. And they were in bed with, what was his name? Kia Jarapchkan, right? So Unai Emery had no understanding of any team whatsoever. It was like, we're going to give you this guy, we're going to give you that guy. The place was toxic. They had Ozils and Aubameyangs at the time that were doing what they wanted. It was a mess at Arsenal. And at the moment, it looks very similar at Manchester United. The Ozils and Aubameyangs are there with the Rashfords and Brunos. You've got no structure at the club. You've got Ten Hag, who's there, who's at the moment looking like he's not got a clue what's going on. The scouting there was a joke. So if that's going to continue, then no, I don't think Unai Emery will do anything different at Manchester United than what the others have not done right. But if you actually look at completely starting again, I think that's a fantastic appointment. And I look at what he's done at Villarreal, I look at what he did at Seville, I look at what he's doing now at Aston Villa. It's been really successful. LB last night was on the show with me reading out his Champions League record. It's actually not so bad. Europa League, we all know, is unbelievable. So I think this would be an unbelievable appointment. I actually think it's mad to say this, but I think he's quite happy at Villa, and I do think it would take a lot. Now, I'm not saying he wouldn't go to Manchester United because they're massive, right? But I think he'd only go to Manchester United if he actually fancied that the structure was there and it was actually going to have some form of what he's got at Villa, but at a bigger club. If he's not going to have that, then I think he should stay at Villa, if I'm honest with you. But it depends how much you back these guys, Tel, and if you think that they are going to be the guys for Manchester United, because the appointment of Emery, if that's the case, would be very, very good for the club, man. I can't lie.
I don't know, man. I think United's in too much of a mess that Unai Emery would go to United. I honestly just think the players, I reckon 80% of them need to leave at United. It's a big job. And I'm just thinking to myself, why would Emery, having been at Villa, 18 months, 2 years or whatever it is now, is probably going to get them Champions League football based off the fixtures that are remaining. Why would he leave? Why would he leave Aston Villa to go to Manchester United right now? Like I said yesterday, Bayern Munich potentially. I know that they're obviously looking at Nagelsmann again, but I think Bayern Munich should be looking at Unai Emery. But because they're more stable. I know there's a little bit of stuff that they need to get sorted out of Bayern Munich, but you don't need a full rebuild like United. I honestly don't think he'd go. I don't think Unai Emery would go to Manchester United in the current setup of Man United.
Do you think he'd be a good appointment, though, LB? Do you think he'd be a good appointment for Man United? Because I know he's not done it at the big clubs, like the elite clubs, right? Because of PSG, Arsenal, you can say it was quite not great there. But at the moment, Manchester United aren't in that bracket. I know they are as a heritage and as a football club, the whole package. But the way they're playing at the moment, they're not playing like a.
I don't know if it would be, because the problem is, bro, I don't really know what United need right now. Honestly, I don't know until the board sort of give us some sort of indication on how Manchester United are going to be moving forward with the play style, with how serious they're going to be about getting rid of certain players, all that kind of stuff. Until we know what they're going to do, I don't know if it would be a good fit. And if I was Unai Emery's advisor, I would be saying, do not go Man United. Stay at Villa, man. Villa are chilling. All the fans love you. The players respect you. They've got money to spend. You're in the Champions League probably next year. go and kick on and make Villa a big force again like they used to be back in the day. So I wouldn't leave, man. If I was him, I wouldn't go United. I go Bayern Munich. You asked me the question about Bayern Munich. I would leave Villa to go Bayern Munich, but I wouldn't leave Villa to go United at this point. I really wouldn't.
Do you think, Tel, as a Man United fan, though, do you think that you could get better than Unai Emery? Because I'm being serious when I say this. I actually think he is the best manager after Pep and Klopp. I actually do. I think if you look at what he's won in the game and how he plays and what he's done with clubs, I do. But I don't know, maybe like a Hans Flick or somebody like that would be better. But I don't know. I think you could do a lot worse than Emery, but maybe you could do better. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Man United fans got to wake up and smell the coffee. And as much as I want to say, and me and Mo had this debate a few weeks ago when there was talk that Ineos really like Zinedine Zidane. I was like, of course you could. Part of me believes you could sell this Man United rebuild in the sense of if you're involved and you understand what's going on, you could be really honest about the problems that we've had, how badly run we've been as a football club, but what we're changing, how we're fixing the culture, how we're not, we're not going to allow the same problems to persist as before. And if a top manager believes you and they're capable of starting a rebuild, because I don't think all top managers, it isn't even that they have the capability, it's where you are in your career. I think whatever you guys have done as a job, the viewers, whatever they've done, sometimes you don't mind starting at the bottom. But when you've been at the bottom and you've worked your way up and you've been up there, it's sometimes hard to go on and go somewhere else and start at the bottom again because you've done that work before and you want to sort of go somewhere that's in a better position. But where I say Man United fans have got to wake up and smell the coffee, this idea, this notion, this thought that some United fans have that we can still just go and get the best managers available in the world right now is crazy. And I think you're seeing that. We were nowhere near the Alonso conversation, which is frustrating. Nagelsmann's like, nope, I want to go back to Bayern Munich. Ruben Amorim is one of our top managers. Scan Liverpool. It's not looking at us as an example. And you're going down this situation where lots of managers that everybody talks about, Inzaghi, it sort of distanced himself from the job. Even Thiago Motta, we're linked to him, but you speak to anybody that's kind of in the know, it's like, there's no real conversation. The manager's not interested in the Premier League, which therefore means not interested in Man United. I don't think we are a hugely attractive proposition for people right now because there's a lack of trust. And yes, they can see new people. And I think that's why the Dan Ashworths of this world, who are not officially in yet, are looking more towards people they know and trust, like the Graham Potters, to at the very least start this process. Because I think a lot of people look at United as a bit of a poison chalice. And that happens after a decade of being run as terribly as we were. Sometimes you do need to go for not an unfavorable manager, but for somebody that is willing to take that risk. And I've never been the biggest fan of Unai Emery based on what I saw at Arsenal and what I saw at Paris Saint-Germain. I always felt those clubs at that size consumed him. My opinion on that has always been challenged by a lot of Gooners and by a lot of people that watch a lot of European football, that actually it was the structures at those clubs that were more the issue than the manager himself. So I'm open. I brought this up. This isn't a story that's trending today. I just looked at it and the way everyone's been praising in this last 24 to 48 hours, I thought Premier League experience, took over a failing Villa team, got them to where he did basically inside a year. I look at that and think, would I prefer him to if Graham Southgate's a genuine option, if Graham Potter's, if that's the level that we're shopping at, then I look at an Unai Emery and think, to start this rebuild, I think he'd be excellent for it. He understands what it's like to not have the best squad in the world and get results. But as he's improved these Villa team, look at the football they're playing. So I think that works. But the question is, this is where I do agree with both of you. If the structure isn't there, he'd be stupid to go. Or to your point, LB, if he doesn't know if the structure is going to be there and he could essentially be thrown under a bus, why leave a place that's so good for you right now? Villa has a rich history itself. They've got wealthy owners. They're looking to grow and get to the next level. They're in the Champions League next year, which Man United are not. If they have a good summer with 3 or 4 transfers and don't really lose anyone, who's with his European pedigree? I know it's more in the Europa League than it is the Champions League, but with Champions League and Premier League money, who's to say they can't have a good Champions League campaign? I'm not saying they'll win it, but who's to say they can't have a good Champions League campaign? So I'm not in love with the idea of an Unai Emery because my mind isn't convinced. But I do think Unai Emery is about as good as we could get right now. But I think United fans have got to prepare themselves. It's far more likely to be a Graham Potter level of manager who comes in than
Facts.
anything else.
And you're right to say that a lot of United fans need to wake up. They do. There's a lot of United fans that are delusional right now, who still believe that maybe your club can attract a top-level elite manager. And by the way, this is probably the worst summer for Manchester United to be looking for a new manager, if indeed they do get rid of Ten Hag, which I think they will end up doing, because Liverpool are looking for a new manager, Barcelona looking for a new manager, Bayern Munich looking for a new manager. Like, you're competing with these massive clubs who have sort of, maybe apart from Barcelona, who have better sort of upstairs and sort of easier to walk into. So I agree. I think it is going to be a manager like a Southgate or like a Graham Potter, who's probably going to step. Well, I think it is, bro. Because I don't think anyone goes
to Man United. That is a sham.
Southgate's the only one I'm dead set against because of the style of football that he plays. So for me, Graham Potter, maybe a few months ago, maybe I would have gone, no. But I'm just sort of looking at the realization of what we're going through, and there's so much broken at our club. You've got to start again. I think there are options that the new ownership would prefer, but do you know what you don't want to do? You don't want to do what Spurs ended up in the situation of doing with Nuno. I don't think Nuno is the worst manager in the world. I really don't. I'm a little biased because I know him personally, but he was, I think, 14th choice, and publicly 9 other managers had rejected Spurs. There was 5 or 6 others that said no, and then Nuno gets appointed. The message that sends into the dressing room straight away is, why should we respect someone that was so low down on your pecking order? What Ineos can't do, what Man United can't afford, is to publicly go after Zidane, he rejects us. To publicly go after De Zerbi, he rejects us. Publicly go after Alma, and he rejects us. That happens 4 or 5 times. Then you bring in Potter. Already he's starting off on the back foot. Whether or not Man United fans like it, rivals want to banter it, if he is presented, and you all know I don't buy the transfer stroke manager PR, when people, sending in a text message to another director of football saying, look, would you guys accept 100 million for a player? And they say no. That for me is still a rejected bid. I don't do the PR nonsense because it isn't official. He may not be our actual first choice, but Man United will spin it that he is. And I think that's sensible, though, because what you have to do is you have to create that narrative, and football clubs have to control their own narrative. 110% they have to do it. It keeps people relaxed. United fans, though, I don't think it's the end of the world. We literally are starting again. And things could get better. Things could get worse before they get better. And I liken it to someone who hasn't been to the gym for a long time. You don't feel very good when you're not in the gym. Trust me, 2 or 3 weeks of starting the gym, you feel worse at times because you're changing your diet and your body's clucking for all that crap you've been eating. Your body's aching because you're lifting weights. And for a short period of time, you feel worse. It takes a few months, really, for you to start feeling really good. Now, that will be extended because this is sport, potentially. Look, we might get lucky and the football clicks straight away. The players buy into whoever comes in and the football is good straight away. But in terms of results, it's going to take time. It's open heart surgery, as Ralph Rangnick said. And I think United fans have just got to prepare themselves for that. This idea, and again, I say we could get lucky and the football's good straight away. We're back up. We stay in and around the top 6, maybe get a Champions League spot, and we do well. And we're like, bloody hell, that's quick. But we're seeing with Arsenal this last 2 seasons, they're at title contending level, and they're still the next stage of that evolution. To get to that point takes years, in my humble opinion. Some will say, "Whoa, look what Bayern Leverkusen have done." Yes, but you are using the exception that proves the rule. That's partly happened because, listen, if they wouldn't have employed Tuchel and Bayern Munich had got themselves a better manager, it may have been different. And sometimes you get these anomaly seasons, these anomaly moments that happen. But most teams, it takes them a good few years to build a team capable of winning the league. Plus, where the Premier League is different to Germany is that one team was always winning it, and now they had a little bit of a drop-off and you've overtaken them. In the Premier League, even if City have the drop-off, you've still got Liverpool, you've still got Arsenal, you've still got the other teams that are around you. It's a little bit of a different scenario, in my opinion. But look, it could, would they have gone unbeaten this season if there was 2 or 3 teams at Bayern Munich's level competing with them? They may have done, but it'd be a lot harder to not lose any of those games home and away. So I think Man United fans, as you say, have got to wake up. They've got to be realistic. The
thing
world
is-
isn't going to change overnight.
The thing is, just quick on Man United, right? You say we've got to start again, and I agree. It looks horrendous. I think me and LB were talking last night. It's like 85 to 90% of the players just need to go. They just aren't good enough, or just shouldn't be there. Been there too long, right? But this is what I still don't quite get from Man United fans and what they want. Do they want a win now manager and say throw a load of money at it to get a win now team because he ain't got a win now team now? Or do you want to go and get a De Zerbi or an Arne Slot or a Ruben Amorim and say, here you go, we're going to give you a few years, get us back into Europe, then get us Champions League, then get us title? What one is it? Because you've got two options. You've got both of them options available to you, Tel, and I don't know what the fan base want.
Do you know the problem
You
with the
spent a
fan
lot of
base?
money, bro. You spent more money than anyone. Do you know what I mean?
The,
But look what
the
you
problem
spent
the
it on.
fan base have is they don't want to listen to reason sometimes. So I want to win now manager, but it isn't plausible with no structure. You have to build a structure that is sustainable beyond its original manager. And then once you've built the really good squad and the really good ethos and the really good culture at your club, then you can just keep appointing win now managers. Appointing a win now manager when there's no structure behind him, it leads to failure. So we're just not, and this is where me and Lee Gunner used to have this argument quite a bit. And so just get the best manager possible. But if there isn't a structure at your club, it falls down. The clubs that do that and win regularly have a good structure. Bayern Munich typically have a good structure. Madrid, they do have a good structure that's quality. And if a manager fails, somebody else can come in the same season and go on and win a Champions League, a La Liga, both at the same time. That isn't possible at a club that's run like crap. So we have to fix that base first, and then in a few years' time, move on to that model. I just don't think you can do it.